Silence is power. It's not absence, it's not weakness. It's the most resounding response in a world that relies on noise to feel alive. When you choose to be silent, you're not losing, you're taking control. Because while others expend energy in shouting, justifying, or manipulating, you raise an invisible wall that no one can cross, that of your calm and your detachment. For too long, you gave more than you should have. You chased after attention, recognition, validation. But that game always leaves the same mark, emptiness. And there lies the lesson few understand. It's not about insisting, it's about withdrawing with dignity, about showing that you don't need to be accepted by anyone to confirm your worth. Silence uncovers realities. It exposes those who fed off your presence because suddenly your absence weighs more than any word. And detachment doesn't mean coldness, it means self-respect, it means freedom. When you let go of what doesn't value you, what doesn't add up, what drags you down, you return to yourself the strength you had given away. This video is not looking to console you with pretty words. It seeks to awaken in you the certainty that calm, stillness, and detachment are far more lethal weapons than argument, pleading, or dependence. Stay until the end, because what you're going to hear are 8 lessons you can apply from today to stop chasing what's not worth it and start living with the power of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. 1. Assert your worth without depending on anyone. Personal worth is like an internal flame. If you light it with the wind of external approval, sooner or later it will go out, because that wind changes direction without warning. But if you light it with your own fire, it will be unbreakable. In human relationships, whether romantic, social, or professional, the most common trap is believing that you need the validation of others to confirm who you are. You wait for an "I care about you," and "I recognize you," and "I need you" to feel complete, and that is the most dangerous chain, because it makes you dependent on something you do not control. The first step is to understand that no one is obliged to see your worth, but you are obliged to recognize it. If you live seeking the gaze of the other, you will fall into the desperation of giving too much, of trying to please, of molding yourself to fit in. And the consequence is simple: you get lost. Asserting your worth without depending on anyone means that you do not accept crumbs of recognition, that you do not give up your dignity to be accepted, that you do not beg for attention as if it were food. It is living with the certainty that your presence already has weight, even if others choose not to see it. How to avoid falling into dependency? Start by observing your everyday behaviors. Ask yourself, how many times do you say yes when you want to say no? How many times do you keep quiet so as not to inconvenience? How many times do you change your way of being so as not to be rejected? Each time you do, you are giving a part of your worth to external approval. A practical way to break this cycle is to set clear boundaries. Say no firmly, even when you fear losing someone. That no is a declaration of your worth, because it means that you prefer to lose a bond rather than lose yourself. Another powerful tip is to stop measuring your importance by the attention you receive. If someone takes a long time to respond, if someone does not recognize your effort, if someone does not give you the validation you expected, do not take it as a judgment of your worth. Their silence or indifference speaks of them, not of you. Train your mind not to react with anxiety. Every time you feel the urge to seek recognition, remember this rule: what does not depend on you should not govern your peace. Also, practice emotional detachment in your achievements. Celebrate your victories in silence. Recognize your effort in front of the mirror. Write in a journal your progress without expecting applause. When you get used to validating yourself, the dependency breaks. And when someone tries to minimize what you are, there will be no effect because your fire does not depend on their air. The truth is hard but liberating. Whoever does not assert themselves will always end up being affirmed or destroyed by others. Asserting your worth without depending on anyone means walking with your head held high, not to prove that you are better, but to remind yourself that you are enough. If you learn this, your silence will be stronger than any speech, and your presence will speak louder than any shout. 2. Turn silence into your strongest boundary. Silence is like an invisible wall. It cannot be seen, it cannot be touched, but anyone who tries to cross it without permission immediately feels its weight. It is the most elegant and at the same time the most relentless limit you can set against those who seek to wear you down, manipulate you, or take over your peace. In a world where people talk too much, where words are used as weapons to blame, justify, or pressure, silence is not passivity, it is strategy. Silence, when used well, is a forceful reminder that not everyone deserves your energy. Turning silence into your strongest boundary does not mean always staying silent or running away from conversations. It means choosing when to speak and when to keep your voice to protect your dignity. It is the difference between reacting with anger or responding with calm. When someone attacks you expecting your reaction, silence cuts off the game at the root. When someone wants to drag you into an endless argument, silence marks the end of the battle without you having to lift a finger. And when someone gets used to having you excessively available, your silence reminds them that your time and attention are privileges, not rights. How can you apply this lesson in your daily life? Start by identifying the moments when your impulse is to respond immediately. If someone offends you, breathe before speaking. If someone seeks to provoke you, stop before reacting. Train the muscle of pause. That small instant of silence, even if it lasts only a few seconds, completely changes the course of the interaction. It is in that space where you regain control of yourself. Another useful practice is to use silence as a boundary against those who do not value your presence. If someone only approaches when they need something, learn to withdraw without explanations. You do not always have to give reasons for your absence. Your silence communicates more than any speech. It communicates that your energy is not available for abuse. It is also essential to learn not to answer every message immediately. Responding late, or even not responding, is a reminder that your life does not revolve around the demands of others. Silence also becomes a boundary when you apply it to yourself. Stop justifying every decision. Stop explaining to everyone why you act as you act. You do not need approval or consent. Whoever lives trying to give explanations to everyone becomes a prisoner of other people's opinions. Your silence is the ground where you sow independence. Learn to keep to yourself what does not need to be shared, because not everyone deserves access to your deepest thoughts. Remember that silence is not a punishment, it is a defense. Do not use it to manipulate or to take revenge. Use it to set clear boundaries. When you get used to reacting calmly and to be silent when it is not worth speaking, people start to perceive your strength. The one who knows how to be silent is not weak, he is master of himself. And that, in a world full of voices desperate for attention, is a power that few have. Make silence your strongest boundary, and you will discover that many battles are won without the need to fight. Because in the end, the noise wears out on its own, but the silence remains firm, untouchable, impossible to break. 3. Take a step back calmly and with dignity. Retreating is not always defeat. Sometimes it's the master move that changes the course of the game. Think about chess. The most powerful move is not always to advance. Often it's to withdraw a piece to protect it, to reorganize the strategy and leave the opponent without an exit. This is how it is in life and in human relationships. Taking a step back does not mean giving up. It means choosing your peace over pointless confrontation, your dignity over the desperation to win an argument. In relationships, whether they are romantic, social, or professional, most fear the setback. We have been taught that we must always insist, fight, prove. But real power lies in withdrawing when the situation demands dignity. What's the point of arguing with someone who has already decided not to listen? What's the point of insisting in a space where your presence is ignored? Insisting only erodes your value. The step back, on the other hand, multiplies it because it shows that you know when to stop, that you are not a slave to the need to convince anyone. The step back is also a mirror. When you calmly distance yourself, the other is faced with the void of your absence. It is there where many understand what they previously took for granted. But the most important thing is not what the other feels. It's what you regain: clarity. From a distance, you can observe what you previously did not see. You can realize if that relationship, that project, or that dynamic really deserved your commitment. And if you discover that it didn't, your withdrawal becomes liberation. How to apply this lesson in everyday life? First, practice patience in the midst of conflict. If the conversation heats up, breathe and decide not to respond immediately. Retreat, even if just for a few minutes, and return when your emotions are under control. That simple step back prevents you from saying what you would later regret. Second, evaluate where you are investing your energy. If you notice that it's always you who seeks, proposes, supports, it's time to take a step back. Don't do it with resentment. Do it calmly and observe if there is a real movement on the other side to maintain the bond. Another powerful tip is to redefine what winning means. Often we believe that winning is having the last word or proving that we were right. But the real victory is not losing your inner peace. When you choose to take a step back, even if you have plenty of arguments, you are prioritizing what really matters: your stability. And that is the best way to demonstrate control. It's also key to learn to withdraw without drama. You don't need to slam doors with shouts or reproaches. Silence and distance speak for themselves. A step back, given calmly and without excessive explanations, is more forceful than 1,000 farewell speeches. That calm disarms, because there is no anger that can be used against you. Taking a step back with dignity is not cowardice, it's wisdom. It's understanding that not all spaces deserve your voice, and not all battles deserve your wear and tear. It means letting go of the ego that wants to impose itself and embracing the serenity of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. Remember this: the truly strong one is not the one who always advances. It's the one who knows when to withdraw. 4. Give yourself the closure that others couldn't provide. Unfinished stories are like books without the last page. You get stuck in uncertainty, waiting for an explanation, an outcome, a sentence that clarifies everything. That waiting consumes, because the mind hates the unfinished and seeks answers in every silence. However, the truth is hard. There are people who will never give you the closure you expect. And not because you don't deserve it, but because they lack the maturity, the courage, or the ability to do so. Holding on to that weight is like living chained to an ending that will never come. The real closure doesn't depend on what others do. It depends on what you decide to build. Giving yourself closure means accepting that you don't need an apology to heal, that you don't require an explanation to move on, that you're not tied to the words that never came. It's understanding that the power to turn the page is in you, not in the other. Because as long as you keep waiting, you wear out, you consume yourself, and worst of all, you give control of your life to someone who has already left or chose not to respond. How to apply this lesson in daily life? First, recognize your need for closure. Don't deny it. Don't hide it. We all want to understand why something ended, why someone changed, why we didn't receive what we gave. But the difference lies in how you face it. Instead of seeking those answers in the other's silence, train yourself to write your own conclusions. Do it literally. Take a notebook and write what that story was for you, what you learned, what you lost, what you won't repeat. That simple act trains your mind to close circles without depending on external explanations. Second, stop waiting for apologies. There are people who will never admit the harm they caused. If you get stuck in that expectation, you live poisoned by frustration. Giving yourself closure is telling yourself, I don't need your forgiveness to let go of what you did to me, because my life cannot continue tied to your silence. That doesn't mean justifying, it means liberating. Another practical tip is to transform the wound into learning. If you didn't get answers, then the closure is in what that experience left you. Ask yourself what patterns you saw, what signs you ignored, what strength you discovered in the midst of pain. That reflection turns the unfinished into a lesson, and when something becomes learning, it ceases to be a dead weight and becomes momentum. It's also key to take care of internal language. Avoid phrases like, "If only he had told me," or "When he explains, I'll understand." Every time you think it, you give away power. Change it for affirmations like, "I don't need an explanation to continue," or "I build the clarity." The mind is trained with what you repeat, and if you learn to affirm yourself from there, the void stops having control over you. Giving yourself closure doesn't mean erasing what you lived, but giving it a place in your story without defining your present. It's like closing a door. You don't destroy the house, you just choose not to live in that room anymore. It's an act of respect towards yourself, a declaration of emotional independence. Remember, the real closure is not granted by the words that never came, but by your decision not to get stuck in the unfinished. When you understand this, you stop waiting and start walking with your head held high, because you are no longer a hostage of someone else's silence. You are the one who writes the end of your chapters. 5. Let go of obsession and embrace acceptance. Clinging to an idea, a person, or an outcome is like tightly holding a rope that slips through your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it cuts, the more it hurts, the more you bleed. Obsession works the same way. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more you lose your peace. In human relationships, whether romantic, social, or professional, obsession disguises itself as interest, commitment, even love. But in reality, it is a mental trap that consumes your energy and chains you to suffering. Letting go of obsession and embracing acceptance does not mean giving up. It means freeing yourself. It means recognizing that you have no power over the will of others, over their feelings, over their decisions. It means understanding that there are things that, no matter how much you want, will never be in your hands. And obsession is precisely that desperate attempt to control what belongs to the realm of uncertainty. Acceptance, on the other hand, is choosing calm in the face of what does not depend on you. How can you practice this in your daily life? Start by identifying your repetitive thoughts. Obsession feeds on mental repetition. Why did he leave me? What did I do wrong? What will he think of me? Each time your mind enters that cycle, it's as if you're going back to squeezing the rope that hurts you. Breaking it requires discipline. A practical strategy is to stop and tell yourself, this doesn't give me answers, it only robs me of energy. Naming the obsession is the first step to neutralize it. Another powerful tip is to redirect your attention. Obsession locks you into a single point, as if nothing else existed in the world. That's why it's vital to force yourself to expand your focus. Exercise, learn something new, talk to different people. Your brain needs stimuli to break the loop. It will be hard at first because obsession will want to drag you back, but with persistence, you'll discover that you can take distance. It's also important to learn to let go of the need for perfect answers. Often, obsession comes from wanting to understand everything in detail, from not accepting that some things simply have no logical explanation. Healthy detachment consists of accepting that life will not always tell you why. Acceptance is looking at the wound and saying, I don't need answers to move on, I need to move forward even if I don't have them. The practice of gratitude is another effective tool. When you appreciate what you have here and now, your mind trains to let go of what is missing. Make it a habit to write down 3 things you are grateful for each day. They can be simple: your health, a sincere conversation, time for yourself. This exercise cuts off obsession because it brings you back to the present instead of getting lost in what you can't control. Letting go of obsession also involves changing your internal language. Avoid phrases like, "I can't live without this," or "I need it to be okay." Every word you say shapes your perception. Replace them with affirmations like, "I can move forward," or "My well-being depends on me." These phrases, repeated with discipline, reprogram your mind to let go firmly. Acceptance is not resignation, it is strengthening. It's like stopping fighting against the current of a river and learning to flow with it. When you let go, you regain your energy. When you accept, you free yourself from the weight you should never have carried. And in that calm, you discover that your worth, your peace, and your strength do not depend on what obsessed your mind, but on what you choose to cultivate within you. 6. Make discernment your greatest advantage. Walking through life without discernment is like traversing a forest at night with a flashlight without batteries. You move blindly, stumble over what you can't see, trust in shadows, and end up losing your way. Discernment, on the other hand, is the light that allows you to distinguish the real path from illusions, truth from appearances, what is valuable from what only wears you down. In human relationships, lack of discernment makes you give your trust to anyone, open up excessively, or maintain bonds that only drain your energy. Making discernment your greatest advantage means learning to see beyond words and observe actions. It means not letting yourself be dragged along by empty promises or by gestures that seek to manipulate. Because the reality is clear. Not everyone who smiles is sincere, not everyone who approaches does so with good intentions, and not everyone who claims to love you knows how to take care of you. Discernment is the ability to filter, to test what you receive before letting it into your life. How can you apply it in everyday life? Start by observing actions, not just words. If someone promises to be there but disappears when you need them most, you have your answer. If someone talks about respect but doesn't respect your boundaries, you have your truth. Discernment is not based on what they tell you, it's based on what they do over and over again. Train your eyes to see patterns, not excuses. Another practical tip is to learn to listen to internal discomfort. Often your intuition already warns you that something doesn't fit, but you choose to ignore it for fear of losing that person or opportunity. Discernment requires courage to take those internal signals seriously. Don't justify the unjustifiable. Don't cover up with hope what is evident. Your peace should always weigh more than your fear. It is also essential to establish clear criteria for your relationships. Ask yourself, what is the minimum I demand to feel respected? What behaviors am I not willing to tolerate? Write down those answers and don't betray them. Discernment is strengthened when you have firm rules that guide your choices. If you accept less than what you decided, you are not exercising discernment, you are giving away your power. Discernment is not absolute distrust, it is emotional intelligence. It is giving space, but without giving your life to the first one who knocks on the door. It is listening, but without swallowing every word. It is opening up, but with filters. And above all, it is understanding that not everyone deserves the same closeness. There are people who can be in your life without entering your intimacy, and others who don't even deserve a second of your attention. Practicing discernment also involves knowing when to withdraw. If a situation has already shown its true face, if a person has already crossed the line several times, you don't need more proof. Your time is too valuable to continue investing in what has already proven that it doesn't change. Those who don't learn to discern repeat mistakes. Those who make it a habit protect themselves in a silent and powerful way. Make discernment your greatest advantage, and you will discover that many wounds are avoided before they begin. because it's not about becoming cold, it's about becoming aware. And those who live with awareness don't need to shout to be strong, nor fall into traps to learn. They simply observe, decide, and move forward with calm and firmness. That is the true superiority of discernment. It gives you the clarity that others lose amidst confusion and noise. 7. Master the art of not reacting. Impulsive reaction is like a fire in a dry forest. It only takes a spark, a poorly spoken word, or an offensive gesture for you to completely burn. And when you react without thinking, you give away your power, because you let the other person decide how you feel, what you say, and how you act. The art of not reacting is not indifference, it's control. It's becoming the guardian of your own calm and not allowing any provocation to tear down what you've built within you. Mastering this art is accepting that not everything deserves a response. We live in a world where everyone wants to have the last word, where pride seeks to impose itself, and where social media has turned every difference into a public battle. But what happens if you choose not to enter the game? What happens is powerful. You disarm the provocateur, preserve your energy, and demonstrate that your peace weighs more than your ego, because the one who knows how to remain silent at the right moment is not weak, he is master of himself. How can you train this in your daily life? First, practice the pause. When you feel your blood boiling, when a message or a comment provokes you, do not respond immediately. Breathe, wait, and remember that silence is also an answer. That pause can save you from pointless arguments, from words you would later regret, and from impulsive decisions that leave scars. Another practical tip is to identify the triggers that usually make you react. Make a list. It could be criticism, indifference, lack of recognition. Once you recognize them, you will be better prepared to face them without losing control, because when you know where the blow is coming from, it's easier for you to dodge it. The art of not reacting does not mean not feeling. It means deciding how to act despite what you feel. It is also essential to change your perspective on offense. Often what others say does not speak about you, it speaks about them. Cruel criticism reflects their bitterness, provocation reflects their emptiness, contempt reflects their own insecurity. When you understand this, you stop taking it personally. And when you stop taking it personally, you regain your emotional freedom. A useful exercise is to train your mind in everyday scenarios. If someone cuts in line, if someone cuts you off in traffic, if someone tries to humiliate you with sarcasm, use those moments to practice calm. Instead of exploding, observe your internal reaction and mentally repeat, "I will not give away my peace." Turning these minor situations into training strengthens your self-control for bigger moments. Also remember that not reacting does not mean allowing abuses. It means that you choose to respond from strategy, not from impulse. If someone crosses your boundaries, you can speak up, but do it with firmness and calm, not from anger. That carries much more weight than shouting. The one who loses control loses authority. The one who remains calm multiplies it. Mastering the art of not reacting is a form of freedom. It's to stop being a puppet of others' provocations and become master of your movements. It's showing that your strength is not in the noise, but in the calm that disarms. Because in the end, the real victory is not winning every battle, but avoiding being dragged into wars that are never worth it. 8. Live by your own rules, not by others. Life is like a board where everyone wants to move your pieces. Family tells you what you should do, friends opine how you should live, society imposes standards of success, and even strangers on social media try to dictate your worth. If you don't have your own rules, you end up playing with others' chips, advancing in a game that was never yours. Living by your own rules is deciding that your life will not be defined by others' expectations, but by the clarity of your principles and the firmness of your will. This point is not a call to selfishness, but to authenticity. It means that you are not going to mold yourself to fit into spaces where you are not respected, that you are not going to follow paths that others have traced just because it is what is expected of you. It means that you choose an internal standard and defend it, even if it discomforts those who would like to control you. Because in the end, the price of living under others' rules is high. You lose your voice, your freedom, and your essence. How can you apply this lesson in your daily life? Start by defining your internal rules. Don't wait for life to do it for you. Make a clear list of the values that will guide your decisions: self-respect, discipline, authenticity, honesty. Write them down and keep them in mind. Every time you face a difficult decision, compare it with that list. If it fits with your values, move forward. If not, reject it without guilt. That clarity prevents you from being manipulated or falling into paths that are not yours. Another practical tip is to learn to say no without justifying yourself. Many times you get tangled up in excuses not to disappoint others, but the truth is simple. You don't have to give explanations for every decision. When you say no firmly and calmly, you reaffirm your rules. And every time you do, your self-esteem grows because you prove to yourself that your life is in your hands. It is also important to break with the addiction to approval. If you live waiting for everyone to validate your choices, you will never have your own rules. Practice making small decisions without asking anyone's opinion. Choose your clothes, organize your time, define your goals without seeking external approval. This daily practice trains your mind to trust your judgment and gradually frees you from the need to be accepted. The price of living under others' rules is not only losing yourself, but also carrying guilt that does not belong to you. Therefore, another fundamental step is to question every expectation imposed on you. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to what I want, or does it just tie me to what others expect? When the answer does not connect with your essence, it is a sign that you should let it go. You did not come to this world to fulfill scripts written by others. You came to write your own. Living by your own rules does not mean closing yourself off to learning or stopping listening to advice. It means that you filter what you receive and choose what fits with your vision. Listening is wise. Obeying blindly is dangerous. Whoever learns to discern what contributes and to discard what is surplus becomes unstoppable, because every decision is born of conviction and not of pressure. Remember this: living by your own rules is an act of respect towards yourself. It is telling the world that you do not need permission to be who you are, that you are not going to give away your peace to fulfill others' expectations, that your path is traced from within. This firmness annoys some, but inspires many. And most importantly, it gives you the freedom to look at your life with pride, knowing that every step you took was because you chose it, not because someone else dictated it. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.